Good morning. Thank you. Clicker. So Zach Kohana and I were having a conversation about a year or two ago about how is healthcare going to progress in the next few years. And we decided, or at least this is my version of it, that there are going to be three major thrusts. One is that we're going to get better at understanding disease and understanding how to intervene in disease. So this is biology, genetics, genomics, et cetera. We're going to get better at instrumentation. So we're able to look more and more deeply into the human body, figure out what's going on. And we're going to get better at analyzing the kind of data that everybody on the panel has been talking about this morning. By the way, I feel like I'm preaching to the crowd here a little bit because I haven't heard any great controversies arise yet where people have opposing viewpoints. So in the United States, at least, this is a dramatic picture. It tells you that over about the last decade, adoption of electronic health records at hospitals has gone from almost 0 to almost 100%. And so we have lots and lots of experiential data available. I think this is not as true around the world, but it's becoming more and more true there also. Now, a couple of years ago, I was here at a meeting at Harvard, and Jeff Drazen, the executive editor of the New England Journal, was talking to a group of medical students, and he was saying, don't be misled by all this hype about machine learning and AI and all this stuff, because what we need is randomized clinical trials in order to tell what actually works, and only trust that stuff. And unfortunately, he left before I had a chance to argue with him. But my counter-argument was, well, you know, that's fine, except we only have RCTs for a very small fraction of the decisions that clinicians have to make. And so the alternative is not between doing bad science and RCTs, it's between doing RCTs and no science. And so the alternative is this notion of the learning healthcare system, which the National Academy of Medicine has been promoting for about 20 years, that says, well, look, every time a doctor treats a patient, it's a kind of bad experiment. So they have an expectation, they can see whether it happens or whether the outcome they're hoping for happens or not. And we ought to be able to learn something from it. But of course, there may be many confounders. But it does provide a vast number of cases, many, many more than we have in an RCT. So the question is, can we in fact use that wealth of data to learn better predictors, better analytic methods? So this is, again, something that Zach has been promoting for many years, which is we take all the EMR data and we take genetics and environmental data and data from wearables, and we put them into a meat grinder, out come a bunch of features, and we make predictions from those features. A high-quality meat grinder, Zach reminds me. Yeah, but the sausage may still not be high quality. So real data is messy. We have signals data, we have occasionally sampled numerical data, we have narrative data from reports, we have demographics, we have billing codes, we have all kinds of stuff. It's very important to incorporate this in our analyses, but they're all of various degrees of quality. So I say, well, there are many ways to skin a cat. So there are traditional data analytic tools. Logistic regression does work pretty well much of the time. And there are other statistical methods. There are traditional natural language processing methods like term spotting, bag of words kinds of techniques. And what's exciting, and the reason that AI is now thought to be machine learning, is because of these recent breakthroughs that allow us to use convolutional neural networks and recurrent neural networks to do a better job of analyzing these data. Concerns, the data collection is biased. We're using it for different purposes than what it was collected for. There's little information on confounders, and different cohorts can give you different answers. So we also have problems with explainability. There's a problem that if you're doing well on average, but you kill a small number of patients, their families are not happy, even though on average you may be doing well. And then, of course, there's lots and lots of hype. So I just wanted to draw attention to a study that was done by the Wellcome Trust, which raises a number of issues that I think are really important to think about. The opportunities are terrific. We have technology that can make reasonably accurate predictions from tons and tons of data, but with all the caveats that I've tried to introduce. Thank you.
So, Pete, I agree, and I think everybody else would agree that we don't have enough, even if we were order of magnitude more efficient in doing randomized controlled trials, there still wouldn't be enough trials to answer all the questions that we have. At the same time, those of us who are practitioners know well that some of these observational data can be used to actually come up with the opposite conclusion of what may be actually the right answer.
Yep.
And so, so methodologically, how do you see us addressing that problem, given the fact that we can't afford all the RCTs?
So my introduction to clinical medicine came at the hands of people at Tufts, like Jerry Kassirer, another former editor of the New England Journal, who proselytized for the use of decision analytic methods in decision-making in clinical medicine. And whenever you're using such methods, there's always a trade-off of, do you make a decision now based on the best evidence that you have, or do you try to go out and get more evidence? And there's a cost and benefit to gathering more evidence. If you're facing a patient who has a real problem, you have to make a decision now. And if the best evidence you have is from retrospective analysis of potentially biased data, even though it may turn out that you made the wrong choice, that's the best choice that you have if you don't have the option of quickly running an RCT to figure out what you should do. So I imbibed that viewpoint, and I think I'm sticking with it. In the long run, of course, you'd like to improve on these techniques, and you'd like to reduce the biases, and you'd like to crowdsource the curation, as Leo was arguing, in order to make these data sets better. But you're working in real time whenever the situation arises.
Thank you. Since most of us have originally, when we used the electronic medical record, it was really to boost payables back to the institution in which we were working. So I'm wondering if, since you had thing about the billable, the usage on the medical record, if you're seeing a difference between places that are such like Kaiser versus fee-for-service institutions, if you're seeing any biases in those collection using a single diagnosis, for example.
So
sort of like Wenberg, what he saw in the difference in geography of what we were doing, practicing.
I have not studied that question, which is a very good one. We've certainly seen that the billing codes are not a very accurate reflection of reality. So I was involved in a study with some rheumatologists at the Brigham about a decade ago, where we looked at the positive predictive value of a single billing code for rheumatoid arthritis, 714.0, and a PPV of 0.19. Okay, so 4 out of 5 cases were false positives. And my first reaction was, oh my God, there's fraud going on at the Brigham. But in reality, it's not fraud. It's just that that's the way the billing system is designed. If I wake up tomorrow morning with really stiff joints and go to my doctor, the correct billing code for that visit is rheumatoid arthritis, even if I don't have rheumatoid arthritis. So it's a system designed for a different purpose. Nevertheless, there is some signal there which is possible to exploit.